Tutors. I've got Margarita Veras. She is an ESL tutor and a Spanish tutor. And I have Daniela. I'm going to probably not say the name right. Benincasa?
You got it.
Oh, yes, my phonics did me well. All right. We've got Daniela Benincasa from Canada, who she teaches all different types of kids from the age of 3 all the way up to 17. And she helps kids that are on the spectrum with life skills and like any of those like immediate academic needs that they need, those basic skills, reading, math, all of that. And then I have here today Dana K. Brenner, which you guys know is our dyslexia specialist. Woo-hoo, who is here to be able to share something that's really important. A lot of people think that because a student or a child has a special need that they can't learn online. And today we're going to be busting that myth because here's the thing. The thing is, when we are teaching a child how I teach them, that's something that a teacher needs to be able to come on up with, right? So it's not the computer or the online aspect. It's not whether I'm sitting right next to the student right here that is teaching the child. That's a medium. There's a difference between the medium and the teaching tactics that I, as the teacher or tutor, decide to use that makes the difference. And so you guys may have heard this term before. It's the teacher or the tutor that makes the difference. It's not the program. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. Online or in person, that doesn't make as much of a difference. It's who is on the other side of that screen who is doing the teaching that can make an impact on your child. Now, you guys, Dana K. Brenna and I, we go way back to the very beginning of when I started this whole thing. We had a mutual contact. The very first person that went through my program, her name was Laura Culp, and Dana knew Laura, and we ended up being introduced through that connection. And she was the very first person who went through my first program, my Tutorpreneur program. So Dana, you always have like a special heart because it always reminds me of Laura, who was the very first person to go through my program.
It's been a long time now.
It has been a long time. We did get to actually meet in person because we're both in
Mhm.
Wisconsin. We were at a conference together, and Dana has gone on to really hone her skills with helping kids with dyslexia. She used to only use like the Orton Gillingham approach. Now she uses the approach that's going to meet the child needs the most, which whether that includes that Orton Gillingham approach or another approach or the reading interventionist approach, she uses what's going to meet their needs to help that child succeed. So tell us, Dana, what was your experience when you because coming from Orton Gillingham, everything is like hands on with our students, right?
Yes, and there's variable media, like you were talking about. There's, with some of the kids that I work with cursive, we've got the tablet here that they can write on. A lot of the kids love that. Um, there's just different things that we can use. Sometimes I use a document camera when we're using manipulatives. And the truth is that a lot of my parents say, this, I didn't think this would be effective. I didn't think this would help them. And it has. It's beyond expectation that they're reading and they're comprehending so much better than I thought they ever would. And of course, they're
Mm.
not sitting in my driveway for an hour while the kids are having therapy. And now we've got the COVID thing going on. So it's so perfect. We could have never known back when we were in the beginning putting all these pieces together what would come about right now. But it's perfect. It really is ideal. And that gives us such a head start over the people that did just do the face to face. They're struggling now
Yeah.
because they don't know what to do.
Yeah, or they're pivoting. They're starting to think about, okay, how can I do this online? And they're starting to start thinking about it. And the hard thing
Mhm.
is, if you've always tutored in person, the hardest thing I think with that transition is we always want to take the same exact tools that I have and be able to use them versus thinking about how can I use tools that are already online to be able to meet the needs of those students,
And that
right?
really is what takes the longest
Mm-hmm.
is
I
finding
agree.
all of those tools. And it's changing all the time.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, but it's hard to communicate that. And like you said, when you learn one way, it's really hard to make that shift.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we've got some awesome people that are here joining us inside of our Facebook group. online on my YouTube channel. So I want to welcome you guys specifically. We've got Maria in the house. She is a career in college counselors from the beautiful Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania. We have Anna from London. She tutors Latin, and she is an advocate of encouraging dyslexic students to give the subject a try, which is awesome. Yeah, because she deals with people who like with a lot of people will say that kids with dyslexia can't learn a second language. Not true at all. It's absolutely possible. But a lot of school systems, if you're struggling with reading, they don't have you take it earlier on. And so that's awesome because Latin can really help you, Anna. So I'm glad that you are an advocate for dyslexic kids learning Latin. That is fantastic. And then we've got Beth in the house. Woo, woo. So you guys, please share who you are, what it is that you tutor. The more that we see your name, the more that we see you guys engaging, responding, and doing all those kinds of things, it really helps us to begin to recognize you and what it is that you do. And it's all about being able to communicate. So feel free to continue to chat inside of our chat, whether you're inside of Facebook or you are inside of the YouTube channel. That is going to definitely help. And we've got Daniela Benincasa here, you guys. And Daniela is from you said you're in Canada and you are in, starts with an O.
Ontario.
I don't know why I was like, oh. It's the only thing that showed up, a big O.
I know. If it helps, I'm near Toronto.
No, it doesn't help. I don't know anything about Canada except that it's up there.
And it's cold, apparently.
And it's cold. Yes, I know about Niagara Falls.
Okay, I'm about half an hour from Niagara.
Oh, there you go.
Half an hour from there.
There you go. Now I've got you placed. You're on my map.
That's awesome.
And I knew you were on the East Coast because of the time difference.
Yes,
I was like, yep.
Yes.
So tell us, Daniela, how long have you been teaching? Have you been tutoring online for?
So I've actually just been tutoring online throughout the pandemic. I kind of started tutoring before, and I've worked with kids with special needs for about 5 or 6 years now. I did it in high school. I was part of a mentoring program in high school, so I've had a lot of experience with kids with disabilities. But I started tutoring online because I noticed this need for some extra assistance and some extra support in families that have kids on the spectrum or just in general have neurotypical kids with the online learning due to COVID. So I really started doing that. Once COVID hit, I started really tutoring online, and my school was doing tutoring online. So I really got a hold of all these platforms and all these tools that I can use to really help support these families.
Yeah. And I just love your enthusiasm. Anybody else just love Daniela's enthusiasm?
Yeah. I have a huge heart, and I have the biggest passion for kids and for kids with disabilities. It's my heart, and that's definitely what I want to go into.
Oh, that is awesome. And you're definitely on the right track right now. And, and the fact that you've learned how to be able to take what you did in person and be able to move this online and be able to help these kids is going to be so pivotal right now because many of these kids, they're not going back into the classroom, you guys.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And it's so up in the air, especially even in Canada. You know, plans were released, but it's still so up in the air. And families are looking for this extra support. And I love being able to provide that individualized support to those families and help them, because I know that the schools might not have the resources to do that.
Oh, so true. And you guys, like, here's the coolest thing, okay? It doesn't matter if you live in a completely different country than Daniela, because if you've got a child who has the types of needs that Daniela specifically works with, and they're not going back to school, or you're worried about what their education is going to be like, you can contact people like her to be able to work with your child.
And my kind of goal is to get in touch with as many families as possible, not even just through tutoring. I've been doing some mentoring programs. I've been doing some pen paling. I really just want to support, even emotional support. I really want to be that person for those families.
That's awesome. There's a lot of support that needs to go on, right? Like there's a little bit more emotional support, I think, that needs to happen during these tough times. You know, sometimes especially because you work with a lot of kids that have autism, right?
Yeah, for sure. And transitions and change can be a really hard thing. It's a hard obstacle to overcome.
Can be? Oh no, they're big.
Yeah, it definitely is. And one of the ones that I'm helping kids overcome right now is the transition into high school. So I'm holding free Zoom meetings to talk about the cheers, fears, and unclears about high school, for kids with disabilities, and just to help transition them into high school a little bit more and be that emotional support person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. Um, we've got also here, we've got Margarita Veras, who is joining us today. And Margarita lives in Spain. So we all think like Spain is like some exotic place, and like Margarita just like lives there. It's her home. Like it's but she loves where she lives. She loves her language, and she loves being able to help kids that either want to learn to speak Spanish, or they have English as a second language or English as a foreign language. And there is a difference between the two. But she specifically loves to be able to help those two groups of people. And I know that a lot of times we don't really consider like an ESL student wouldn't necessarily be like a special education student, but there's a special need if they're going to be learning in that language that we do need to take into consideration. So welcome, Margarita. We're so glad that you are here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So yes, that's correct. I enjoy, like Daniela and many other of my colleagues, I love what I do. And I love what I do for many reasons. Once because you mentioned something very important, that is the confidence, the emotional support in the learning language, and also overcoming obstacles. But the obstacles mostly, apart from academic ones or intellectual ones, they are also internal ones, internal struggles.
Yeah.
I think it's very important that apart from learning a language or any subject, I think you need to get to know yourself very well as a learner. And that is what I try to do as well at different levels. So because that's the way I learn, that's the way I teach. I walk my talk, or so the way around. I walk my talk, So I try to be as coherent as possible. So, and you at the beginning, you sort of categorize something which is very important, which is the medium and the teaching techniques, and also what the targeting or fulfilling the individualized students' needs.
Yeah.
So for me, because I know what that's like, and ESL foreign languages, both whether it is English, Spanish, or any other language, it's very important to fill that gap. And when you are, for example, if you are in a foreign country and you are trying to transition from, just taking a language program and to take an exam or sit an exam to go to college or to go to university, that is a really stressful period. At the same time, I teach Spanish to English native speakers. And I teach English to Spanish native speakers. That is my specialty. So over here in Spain, for example, initially a lot of people have to get now an intermediate level of English in order to get to university in many degrees. So, but at the same time, just look at the internet. If you want to have access to a lot of information that is in English, you need to be able to improve, read, summarize, write in English, and also to communicate in English. So, and at the moment it's a chaotic time, but the good thing about that is that everything is possible too. So new opportunities may arise, and you don't know, flexibility is going to be a key point. So transferable skills, for as long as I can remember, I'm talking about 20 years ago, when it comes to language teaching, transferable skills was a key word that it was very important, and now it has extended, I think, onto the online world, not only learning but working as well. It's going to be key to be flexible.
Yeah, everybody's having to learn how to, whether you like it or not, you're kind of whether you feel like you're being forced to have to learn how to navigate in the online world, or whether you are moving into the online world because it excites you and motivates you, it is a skill of the future that everybody absolutely needs to have in order to continue to grow, I think, in their own abilities for working and also for learning as well. We've got Nay Perez, who's joining us today, and she said that she is a public school teacher, and this year she's going to be doing more small group and one-on-one virtually, and she needs as many ideas as she can for helping her SPED 504 kids and her EL kids. So I'm glad that you are joining us today, Nay, because we are going to be definitely sharing some different strategies. And if you guys have questions at all for the people that are speaking today, please feel free to add those questions in there, and I will add that into the our panel and bring it into the discussion. Now we're going to start with dyslexia right now with our wonderful Dana K. Brenner, and she's like, wonderful. Wow. I saw that. No, you're amazing, girl. I love you. I'm a super fan. I'm a super fan of Dana. What are some things that you had to begin to do differently to help your kids specifically with dyslexia online?
Well, first and primary was the ability to hear sounds. Mm-hmm. And that was a big one. And because a lot of kids, I mean, if they have dyslexia, they have trouble hearing sounds. So we did a lot of emphasis on mouth position and tongue position, and to make sure, you know, what I was hearing was what they were doing. And even now I'll say, is your tongue in or out? Where? And they get a big kick out of it, because then we kind of make it a game. Is it a TH or is it an F? And where's your tongue? So
now here's the cool thing about being online. They can see themselves.
Exactly. They love that.
We've got that mirror image right there, right? Are you saying, is your tongue behind? Can you feel it behind your teeth? Yeah, like you can actually now take a look at, you could actually take a picture of their face. There's so many different things that you can do to be able to make sure they're making the right sounds. No,
right.
An adaptation I had to make for myself, and I think this is really important. You notice Dana there, she's wearing a headset. I'm wearing a headset. I have to hear the sound they're saying.
That's right.
In reading, that's so important, because if I'm not hearing the right sound, they could just be off just a teensy-weensy little bit. That's not an accent thing, but just be off a teensy-weensy little bit. And it's like, no, that's not it, right? I had a little boy today from Georgia, and I was trying to determine, is that accent, not accent? I was hearing him say dirt. And I'm like, is that how he says that word? And then all of a sudden I'm like, no, because he fixed it to dirt. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. So there's a difference there, right? Like I have to know the difference between understanding accents and dialects, and then what is an improper sound. So cool.
Yeah, definitely the hardest part is the sound.
Yeah. And then once they get that, then what are some of the teaching techniques that maybe you had to change, alter, or do differently than you did in person?
Mainly just to do things visually, like include fun things like sounds, or YouTube has a plethora of alphabet and, learning spelling, and just lots of different things that we wouldn't have access to in the classroom. And we can have those pulled up in just a second or two, and they tune in and they love it. And of course, all the music sticks in their head. And so I said, don't you remember, whatever that was? And they'll just immediately start singing that. So it really takes the learning, and it really makes it real for them between the animations. And finding the platform, I think, was the biggest thing. Bit paper is one that I use because it's a collaborative whiteboard. So the students can write on it and see it. I can see it and write on it. So we do a lot of that, like doing cursive and things like that. So a lot of tools. I think the tools are so important, but they're what brings the lessons alive.
Yeah, I agree. Like we're able to actually teach to all modalities and not just one. Like I know you've heard this term before, that kids with dyslexia can only learn in a hands-on method.
No, that's not what I found. I mean, you do want to incorporate some multisensory, methods into that, but not all dyslexics are the same.
Right.
So, it's it just depends on the child. And if you tap into what they really need, they absolutely can learn.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important is, so how do you figure out what kind of learner they are, Dana?
Well, I do an assessment that I learned in the reading interventionist program. The test that I had learned in the Orton Gillingham, it was an assessment, but to me it wasn't comprehensive enough. It just kind of gave a broad overview, and I wanted something more technical. So in the reading interventionist program, what is it, a 4-part series or 5-part series? I don't remember what it is, but you showed us how to, put that into a PowerPoint. We can work on it with the kids. It's like flashcards. You just fly through the flashcards, and is it a blending issue? Is it a segmenting issue? Is it what's the 6 types of vowels issue? So it makes it, it makes it easy to pinpoint where that is. And then the reading level, we use reading A to Z. So even though that's not necessarily an Orton Gillingham based program, it gives you an idea, where are they reading? How many, words a minute? What is their comprehension? There's so many things tied into these. And with dyslexia, you have to pull them apart and figure out, it's a puzzle. You take it apart and then see how it all fits together, because it's not a one size fits all. That's the great thing about special needs. It's a challenge. And you can also, there's a lot of regression with dyslexia too. You might be going along and learn just fine, and then you log in with them one day and they might have lost some things that they knew. Like if they went on vacation for a week, they might have lost way more than you're comfortable with, but then you have to go back and make up for that too. So a lot of different variables.
There are. And not only that, but dyslexia usually doesn't come just by itself, does it? It comes with the ADHD. It comes with behavior issues. Maybe like oppositional defiant. It'll come with it just kind of like, so they end up all with their own little unique twist and things that you have to be able to figure out, like you said, and each kid's almost like a puzzle in trying to figure out, okay, which way. I mean, there's some typical things that you can usually try, which makes that a lot easier, but then there's some other things you have to throw in to make it work. Okay, I think somebody said that I was very, very quiet, so I will see. Oh, I am really quiet on here. Usually I'm a pretty loud talker. So I'm not sure why that is happening. So thank you for letting me know. I'm going to play with that as I continue to go, Beth. Thank you. My input's not coming in very well. Okay, so we've got Daniela. Daniela, when it comes to working with your kids, what are some things that you find are helpful, specifically online, compared to the in-person that you did?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that definitely helps me make these impacting relationships is connecting with the kid at first. Taking those 15 minutes to maybe ask about what interests them, what's their favorite movie, what's their favorite subject in school, just to kind of gear it towards what they like. Kids will want to learn if you're teaching them in a way that they like to learn. So if you, instead of just, giving them a book to read, maybe give them a book on their, favorite, it's little changes like that, on their favorite subject, or doing a project on their favorite actor, something like that. Especially with online, I think just incorporating some things that give kids breaks, especially with kids on the spectrum. You need breaks. So I like to take breaks and do yoga and dance and sing. We can color. We can just chat about things and listen to music. I think it's really about taking those breaks and letting them know it's okay to take the break, and we don't have to go the hour full. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that definitely helps. I also found that with some of my reading students, that the younger kids, they can only handle like a 30-minute session.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And just even doing, 15 minutes work and then doing a 5-minute break where we just talk about the weekend or something like that. And then doing another 15 minutes and really getting to know their coping mechanisms and the things that make them happy, the things that make them feel good, and incorporating those into the lessons. And it's not so much a work session where instead it's like a friend session.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got these different things that we can utilize online to really engage the child too.
Absolutely.
Today I had a little girl and she was so tired, and She was adopted from another country, and they haven't identified what any of her learning needs are. She's just been she came and she was undernourished, and she just has always just struggled with learning. So that's all they know so far, really, at this point in time, is everything just takes her longer, and they just don't think that she's developed quite at age level because of her malnutrition that she experienced. And so I just said to her, hey, how about I go somewhere different today? Instead of me, being in my office, how about I teach you while I'm at the beach? And I was able to just go on over here, and I was able to just, boom, bring in the beach to her and just be like, here I am at the beach, right? I'm able to utilize something that's online.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then here she goes. She sits in her seat and she does what she needs to do. Because it's
absolutely.
all about kind of learning, like, what are they going to think is cool? What do they think is exciting?
Exactly. I like to incorporate snuggle buddy sessions where we both kind of climb into bed and read a book together, virtually, obviously.
Right.
And it really makes that kind of connection, and it makes it seem like it's not really a work session. We're just hanging out and we're just reading a book and learning, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. I even have, like, my students will come with their stuffed animal to the session.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that. They bring their blankets and their stuffed animals. Those are two things that we see. Or sometimes they're cars, But I'll just like look at them at the beginning, because obviously that's important to them. They brought it to the session, right? And so it's like, you know what? How would you, like, I find out the name of the stuffed animal, and I talk to them like their stuffed animal's a person.
Yeah.
And then I'll just say, so does Snugglebop over here, how about we put Snugglebop right here, just so they could see you? Can you put Snugglebop so that Snugglebop can see you? Snugglebop is going to listen to you read today. And it's almost like, oh, okay, like I need to get to work. It's all in how we kind of
added motivation, for sure. And just back to what I was saying about making it something that they like. If you're trying to work on writing or maybe even comprehension, you can say, oh, like, does your stuffed animal Joey, like, let's make him a whole life. Let's write about his life. Let's do this and that. Incorporating those things, they might seem silly, but creative writing is such a good way for kids to begin making those sentence formations.
Yes, absolutely, which is fantastic. Oh, I love it. Such exciting stuff, you guys. Absolutely. And we've got Ron here from LTL Tutoring Center. He says, sounds about right. You'll probably be able to get those skills back with them quicker than they learned them originally, though. So I think he's in response to you, Dana, with the dyslexia and the amount of time, like if they take a week off, that there's a little bit more of a little gap that just kind of occurred, and we got to go back a little bit, close that gap for them. But awesome. And then we've got our English as a second language students. Margarita, what are some things that you do to be able to teach? Because there's many different aspects of teaching English online, specifically to your students that speak a second language. You got to make sure that you have that they can hear the language and understand it, that they can speak the language and understand it, and they can, write in the language and understand it. What are some things that you do to be able to meet their needs?
Well, the difference online is probably how I tackle, if I ask them to, rather how I use the time in the lesson, in the online lesson. So if we rather interact more and we focus more on communication, I use the communicative approach. And basically it's just if they have to do a listening exercise, I would ask them to do the listening exercise before class, something like that, rather than spending time in just running a video or something like that. That is for high intermediate or onwards high intermediate students. But it depends on their goal, really. If they are preparing for an exam, or depending on the skill as well, if they want to develop. I think confidence is a big key, and particularly reading as well, reading with them, the same as in the reading interventionist program. Many people are afraid to hear their own voice in the target language, or in the language that they are. And I think not only speaking an easy to make them easy for them by role playing, for example, different role playing, also reading out loud, and talking about a subject that interests them, versus as well for any task or any essay or any exercise that they have to complete for perhaps an exam or a homework or something that they have to do or present. To give a presentation, oral skills is very important as well. Anything, it all depends. I'm really flexible when it comes to, and I use from, like many other people from mainstream education, that doesn't change that much. It's just you can use from Google Docs to even Jamboard when it comes to vocabulary, which is, and if you are using a touch device as well, it's very easy. You can even write by hand or with the finger or with a pencil and a stylus. It depends. It's just to give them the best experience. That I would say that is using PowerPoint presentations as well is very good, and it also gives them the opportunity to really rehearse those presentations that they will be able, and I know that more and more they are practicing and asked to do in the school. So all of that is all a combo, really. It's just the online also prepare them for media literacy skills.
Yeah. And I'm hearing something. I don't know if anybody else has heard this. I'm hearing a pattern between every single one of you who teaches something different. And that is that we've got to take a look at what are the goals that the student wants to be able to accomplish. What are the goals that the student has? What are the goals that the parent has? And that's where we start. Like, what are their specific needs? So that's not even anything different than what we do as a tutor, is it? Like, we should be doing that anyways with all of our students. So in the educational world, we call it an IEP, an individual education plan, but it's kind of got like a dirty association to it. Like, oh, if you have an IEP, you're not really a smart kid, but that isn't it at all. I think every child should have an individual education plan because every child is different. They have different needs, different interests. And yes, we all need like some of these basic skills, but we don't always have to take the exact same path to be able to get there. And I think that's something that's really important to kind of to think about when you're working with these students. Now, you also you teach some students that on the autism spectrum that have that need to learn sign language. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love to teach you your name in sign language if you'd like to participate.
You betcha.
Okay, awesome. So first you're going to take your pinky like this and draw J. That's your J. Now O, just like this.
Oh, I can do O.
Yeah, A is a flat fist. A, yeah. And then N is 2 fingers underneath.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, N, and E looks like this. And then that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. So it's awesome. I love teaching a little bit of sign. I've been able to kind of teach myself as well as learning through the deaf community. And I'm working on teaching some basic signs like I need to go to the bathroom, or I want more food, or I want a snack. There's multiple things that are just a very good way for kids to communicate when they can't figure out how to make those sounds with their mouth, or they're working on doing that. It's just a great communication tool, and it's relatively easy to learn for the whole family, and it's great to incorporate into their daily lives.
Yeah. I was almost thinking it would be really cool, especially when we talk about like the vowels and like reading, like incorporating sign language with that, so they can begin to get a little bit more of that actual like physical, like hands-on piece of it. Exactly. I think that would be really cool. Beth, by the way, who's my virtual assistant, said that she loves American Sign Language.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
What's the difference between American Sign Language? Is there a Canadian Sign Language?
I use ASL. I use American Sign Language. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know because we were actually joking before this about how, like, you know, us Americans, we just had to flip everything. We had to flip the side of the road that we drove on. We had to, you know, like from the British, we had to flip. Yeah. We didn't flip our B's and D's. Oh, we left that one to our dyslexics too.
Yeah, ASL is just, it's kind of like in different languages, there's different dialects or different versions of that language sort of thing. It's kind of like the same thing, but ASL is commonly used, and that's the one I'm working through.
Sure, sure. Well, us Americans, we are better. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We are not. We're not.
Canadians are way better.
They are. They are.
They're nicer.
They sometimes, I don't know, us people in Wisconsin, it's a pretty nice state, isn't it, Dana?
It is.
I'd say there are a lot of really nice people in Wisconsin. If you want to move to a nice state in the United States, Wisconsin's a really nice state.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. I came from Massachusetts, so no dig on Massachusetts, my friends who are from Massachusetts out there, but it was very different. And when I came here, I felt like I personally was more accepted, and people were just willing just to be nice. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted. So our kids want that too. I'm curious now with the whole entire coronavirus, you guys, and kids social distancing and a lot of kids moving online. Do you think that between the school system and the parents that there's a fear that these kids aren't going to get enough social interaction because of the online?
I totally think so. I think parents have that big fear that, I don't want to send my kid because I'm afraid of coronavirus, but I want to send my kid because they need that social interaction. And it's something that it's obviously up to the individual person, but it's something that we can still do online. So I've been supporting and mentoring some kids just through email, or just through, hey, do you want to do a half an hour Zoom call to get that social interaction, to get that out of their system, because it's so important. So I think that there are other ways for kids to interact and get that social activity. And it's something that us as tutors, we should be providing that social interaction with them, as well as, the learning and the education. Mm-hmm. But I like to give all my students my email or my text, my number, anything like that, just so that if they feel like they need that social connection, they need to message someone, they need to, have a FaceTime call, I'm that person to offer that for them.
Yeah, it's amazing. A lot of people don't really take into consideration that this is a version of social interaction.
Absolutely. It fills my love tank as much as it fills their love tank. You know what I mean? Like, I love the social interaction. They get something out of it. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And my mom has always been anti, like, Zoom, her, like, and not getting on Zoom. I'm like, hey, that's her thing, right? We just got her a cell phone, and she found FaceTime, and she FaceTimed me the other day.
It's an awesome creation. It's awesome. I love it.
So here's my 70-year-old mother. Hi!
And then you just see, like, the top of their forehead.
No, I saw her whole face, the whole thing. I'm like, hi, Mom.
That's hilarious.
But she did feel like she was, like, right now, all of a sudden, she got to actually feel it. Like,
totally.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm right there with you in your kitchen. Like,
totally.
That's because you are, Mom.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you guys ever have this where, like, you change just the angle where you're at, where you tutor normally, and everyone's like, did you move? Are you in a different place? And you're like, no, I'm now tutoring from this angle versus that angle.
Happens to me. A lot of my younger kids are like, did you move houses? Did you move closer to me? I'm like, oh, I wish.
I know.
Changing backgrounds helps a lot. They're like, change it with the seasons, or
yeah,
it always freaks them out.
It does. It does.
Can I go back to the sign language real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got the kids usually that I work with, they confuse their I's and E's, and they will make the sounds of each. Mm-hmm. So, and I can't think of two words right now.
Especially if you live in Wisconsin, I will just say.
Yeah. Okay. But, sometimes you get it in Texas too. I mean, Texas kind of has their own, every state's a little bit different. Every kid's a little bit different. But if they really are struggling, like if they'll look at the beginning letter and they look at the end letter and they just totally ignore that vowel in the middle, we'll throw up the I. Okay. Say as you
I like that.
See
it.
Absolutely. And then that does help them. And it just adds that large muscle.
Totally. And it's that muscle movement memory.
Exactly.
Doing that E. Oh, I remember the E looks like this, so it sounds like this. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I'm learning.
And
I
that
know
really
my vowels.
helps.
All right, we got A. Does this A?
A, E.
A, E.
I.
I.
No, with your
Pinky.
pinky.
Pinky. Oh, there we go. I,
O.
O, and you? Peace out.
Amazing.
Peace out. Yeah, so that's great. I really do think that can definitely help them. The other thing we have a problem with here in Wisconsin too are those A's and E's.
Mm-hmm.
Bag and beg.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my husband cannot hear the
Beg
difference
and
between
beg,
bag
yeah.
and beg.
Yeah, that's hard. That's a
I
hard
love him
one.
to death, but now I've just kind of gotten used to it. He's like, "You're not saying a different word." I am.
I am.
A
It
bag.
spells different.
A
So
bag. I go to the grocery store. I have my bag. Beg. I'm begging you for food.
I'm begging you to stop doing that.
I think that's him.
You to listen.
That's right.
Oh, crazy stuff. So again, if you guys, I have some exciting news for you guys. So we are actually doing, I have Kathy Cousineau tomorrow who's doing a live webinar. She's going to be sharing with you guys the 3 top tips to success for kids with special needs. You definitely don't want to miss that. My dear friend Beth here, she is going to put a link inside of the group here so that you guys can join us. But I've also added it inside of the description ahead of time. So I hope that you guys can see that. You just scroll and take a look to see if you can find that description. And if you click on that link, whether you're in the Ultimate Support Group or you are inside of the YouTube channel, you should be able to find that link. There's little fingers going like this, pointing to it. You just click on it, and you can sign on up. It's tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. Central Time. So definitely come and join us for that. It's going to be great. She's going to be sharing some awesome tips for you guys to just be able to continue. We're going to, no matter what, I think as online tutors, we're always going to have kids that have special needs. Whether the parents tell us what they are or don't, we need to be able to change our teaching based off of what we're noticing is working for the student in front of us.
For sure.
It's so individualized. I mean, we can't, at the end of the day, we can't say all kids with blank need to be taught like blank. Mm-hmm. Because that's not taking the whole child into consideration, other things that could be going on, right? Yeah. I've had some kids with dyslexia that struggle with comprehension, so I can't only focus on phonics and sounding out words and not putting all the pieces together and having them think about what they're reading, right? And so it's important that we put all of these pieces together. I have, for a little girl, she's got dyscalculia. So I'm saying the word wrong. It's dyscalculia, isn't it? Is it dyscalculia?
Heard it both ways, inside of Wisconsin and out.
Inside of Wisconsin and out.
I'm just kidding. A lot of different pronunciations of that word.
There are. So that D word for math, okay? That's that thing that is like dyslexia for reading. It's the D thing for math. Dyscalculia, however you want to pronounce it. She definitely has it. And so for her to be able to do 4 plus 3 inside of her head, she can't do it. But I got dice, okay? Got dice. I had her draw dice on the piece of paper in front of her. And I said, okay, so where are the dots for the dice? For a 2, they're in the 2 corners. So what I started her doing is I have her point to get that hands-on to the 2 dice. And then after she gets comfortable with that, I have her close her eyes, picture that dice, and count the 2 on the dice whenever she's adding 2 on there, so that she can be able to add. It's a very visual way to help that dyscalculic child. We're just going to throw that out there. To be able to help, like the dice help, so mom and dad can actually use dice with her. Those dots aren't going to change. They're not going to move on her. It's not, like a lot of times kids will they'll just put a little pictures, right? They draw pictures and they count those pictures. Mm-hmm. Well, with a dyscalculia child, they need something concrete that they can always focus on. And dice don't ever change in where they put their dots. So that helps them. So think about that if you're working with dyscalculia students. Have you ever worked with anyone with this dyscalculia, Daniela?
I have one student currently, and she struggles with, again, she can count the numbers. It's just in her head saying, how do I add 4 plus 3 in my head? How do I go up 3 numbers from 4? It's really difficult, and definitely using those concrete manipulatives are a really good way to get that hands-on learning, so that they can kind of manually and physically feel those dice, for example.
Yeah. And it's made a huge difference with this one little girl, because like she can count. We got her now skip counting. So she can do the skip counting by twos, by fives, and by tens. We just wanted to get there, start there, and then start now adding. So adding by ones, adding by twos, and using that dice. And
Yeah, for
that
sure.
totally has been working for her. I was hoping to have Atul come and join us, you guys. But
Oh, he's amazing.
Atol's working with a student, so he wasn't able to come and join us. But he would have been here if he could have been. I know he would have been.
He's got some great ideas.
This is what happens to you guys. Like, you ever notice, like, our community is staying, but we always have stagnant people too. Like, people that just keep staying with our community because people's businesses are growing, you guys. This is amazing. So a lot of people are saying, oh, there's too many tutors that are out there right now. Absolutely not. We couldn't have more of them that know how to teach online at this exact moment in time. There is not a number that is too many.
Absolutely.
I really think there's so many kids. I can only work with 10 to 20 kids at one given time. I can only work with 10 to 20 kids on my roster if I'm going to still do one-to-one, if that's the model I'm going to keep. And so I have to rely on sharing my expertise with other tutors so that, not only, I'm not saying like I'm like the know-it-all and not, I need to learn from other tutors as well. But we need to work together and collaborate together versus feeling like we need to compete against each other, right?
For sure.
So I really appreciate you guys coming on in here and really collaborating with us and sharing the ideas and not feeling like, well, this is my idea. I'm not sharing that with you. Good luck. Right? That's a beautiful thing, you guys. Like, these people have come of their own time to share these amazing strategies with you. Now, Tom said, how would you say it's important to let kids with special needs do something that they like rather than a structured lesson in class? What do you guys think?
I think that you can incorporate what they like into some sort of structured lesson. Like, there's just so many ways, and especially with tutoring, my favorite part about this is that you make it so individualized. If they want to write all in purple pen, they can write all in purple pen. We don't have to have these sort of structures that some schools sort of rely on a little bit. But there is definitely a way to make structured lessons into incorporating something that they love and that they're interested in.
I agree. And I feel like structure gives, especially with kids with special needs, structure gives them the freedom to jump from one activity to the next without that fear of transition and what's going to happen. That's one of the biggest things that kids really struggle with. So my students know that every time that they get started with me, if sight words is part of their thing, we're starting with sight words. Like, it's not going to be some random activity that I'm just kind of throwing on in there. We're going to be going back to their sight words and working on those. Then we're going to open up their book, or we're going to work on a vowel pattern chart, depending on what's next in their lesson plan. So I almost create individualized lesson plans that I follow for that student. I feel that structure is important, but the structure of in class, like if you're kind of I feel like sometimes we're just throwing our special ed kids into classes and that they aren't getting as much out of it.
I definitely do feel the same way about that. My best friend has a disability, and I truly have just realized how little resources some schools have, and how just that little extra support can make such a big difference in their lives and in their learning. If you just make it a little bit more individualized and into something that is based on their learning needs, it can make such a big difference on how they progress.
Yeah. I've just seen some certain kids that I've worked with in my own life, and then watched them as they go on into the school system. They've got great social skills, which is great. I have seen lots of kids like with autism end up developing some good social skills, but then they're just sitting in the classroom.
Yeah, they're not being challenged enough. A lot of kids are really, they're put into this, sort of special ed class, and then there's sort of this norm or this baseline level where some kids, every kid is different. Some kids are above that baseline. Some kids are below that baseline. And any level you're at is totally fine, and you need to work with them at that level instead of just making it this general sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm curious, at what age, Margarita, do you think that kids that had special needs could learn a second language?
From probably, I think, 11 onwards, maybe. Could be. I think particularly they struggle when it comes to in their native language. I think you need to give them a bit of time to get on with that and master that first.
Mm-hmm.
And if they need to, like, for example, have strategies like dyslexic or something that they need to, like in the reading intervention program, they need to, separate the syllables and all of that. They need more time. And even, you don't even need, even in English, just studying, like any, let's say a Spanish native kid of 11 or 12 years old, that he comes in contact with English for the first time, he's going to have, English pronunciation is very chaotic in comparison to Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Spanish is 80% predictable. We've got exceptions, but it's not as, you need to memorize in English a lot of words, even kids at the school in mainstream education. So it's not impossible. That's what I would say. I don't want to. I'm also an advocate of, if you want to learn it, you can do it. You just have to have the right person who believes that this is possible. And if you believe it, you will find a strategy and you will succeed. That is what I have to say.
Yeah. And so I was one of those moms, okay, that put in like the baby Einstein videos with my kids.
Yeah.
And just to make sure that they got those Spanish sounds inside of their brain as it was developing. I was like, well, I can't really speak it to them, but I'll put on the video and they can watch it. They have no idea, right? They're seeing the fun images and they're getting those sounds. And, if I needed to go cook, I'd put in a baby Einstein Spanish video in there and they'd be hearing the language.
That's awesome.
And guess what? Now they speak Spanish. Now they speak, I have 2 kids that speak fluent Spanish. So it definitely helps. I mean, we've given them some other opportunities. I'm not going to blame it on my baby Einstein trick that I gave them, but it definitely helps. We have one person here, Bobby, said, I feel like they can learn a second language from young because of that like kid instinct to pick up words, language and concepts like a sponge. So true. They can just, kids are a sponge, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
They are.
Yeah. If they can manage and they are exposed to it on a amount of time that is considerable or significant enough, they pick up very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And even language exams, like Cambridge language exams here in Europe, the time is being reduced because now kids learn and become more fluent earlier on than a decade ago. So there has been adjustment. In the you're not the only one who struggled with words. So
starts with an O. Ontario, I got it. Ontario.
So yeah, the exams, the time has been adjusted because kids are more fluent. They get fluent earlier, so they're more efficient at communicating at language. But still, I started learning English when I was 11. And then because of the school system that I was in, really, I started to become fluent later on in life. And I struggled not with English, but as a student overall, I struggled at high school. Mm. So for me, it's very important that it has been said before, but to really get to know yourself as a student. If someone, going back then, when I was struggling, when I didn't know, I just needed someone to have a look at me and say, okay, to guide me in a certain way. I don't feel that happened in the school system that I have. I don't know if in the US, fair enough, I have 30 kids, and as much as I would like to I don't think that when you are in a school with 30 kids, you can really truly meet 100% every kid's needs because if you got a program to follow and deadlines as well, and that's difficult.
Yeah.
And I also had the experience of teaching in reduced numbers and, on a one-to-one basis. And for me, the best when it comes to really targeting 100% a child's or a student's needs is on a one-to-one.
Absolutely.
After that, you can play with the others and you can support their journey in groups or in reduced groups, in the mainstream classroom, whatever you want to call it. But that is one of the best ways. And
I agree.
What is pedagogy? Pedagogy comes from Greek and is the one who accompanies the child in the learning process. And you start to see that you are training with your techniques and the different methodologies, but you see, and particularly your own experience as well, is what you've got to give to that child or to that student when they need it. That is the best way. Whether it is emotional support, whether they don't believe in themselves, and you have to hold it for them for a while, and you make them see you got what it takes, you got it, you are learning, you are moving forward. They have to see that as well.
Yeah.
So because I have been there myself, and if I start a new program, I probably would feel the same. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So guess what, you guys? All kids can learn. It is not just a motto. It is a true statement. We were given these incredible brains and they can do amazing things. And now we just need to learn more about that brain and how people learn. So keep learning, you guys. Come join us tomorrow for Kathy's webinar at 1 o'clock Central Time. It is called 3 Top Tips for succeeding with kids with special needs. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about it. And thank you guys, Dana, Daniela, and Margarita, for taking time out of your day to talk about this amazing topic. You guys all enjoy the rest of your day, and we will all see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.